The, with the sticky shed syndrome caused by the aging of the tape in a less than perfectly dry environment. Certain Ampex tapes had this problem, such as Ampex 456, 406, and that was what I was using. And now I'm going to try to find a way so that I can play that tape. I'm baking these tapes. That's the way you need to do it. Now I have to find a way to bake them long enough, and maybe I have to I might have to rewind the tape onto the second reel and then bake it some more on both reels to make sure that the baking is uniformly distributed so that it can bake the inner part of the reel. Otherwise, it doesn't bake the inside part that's wound close to the hub. That's the problem that I'm encountering but I'm finished. I was after doing the quarter-inch tapes. I learned that that was a problem with 3 sets of my tapes. What was it? 3. Yeah, was it? Couldn't have been. 3 tapes. Yeah. Three 7-inch reels had this problem, and they were part of a batch of baking that I did with my dehydrator where I baked the tapes. You have to bake the tapes at a temperature between 50 and 54 degrees Celsius to be safe, and at least that's a recommended. That's one recommended. That's what Ampex recommends, actually, and they patented the procedure, so that's what we believe is right. And but even so, I didn't bake. One of the tapes was only baked 16 hours, and it was fine. But maybe it was done. It was probably a tape that was done later, or something. And the older tapes that had been done years earlier, or a few years earlier, anyway, they may have been the ones that had the problem. But I'm not sure now. I haven't investigated that aspect of it. So that will have to be investigated too. But these tapes that were baked longer than 16 hours, but they ended up having damage, despite the fact that the one tape baked 16 hours had no damage at all. The damage was the loss of oxide. That the orange layer that is the oxide peels off, and you see strips missing. So the volume level changes during the song, and things go wrong to those songs that were near the center of the reel. And these reels were stored tails out, so the center was the first song, and the first and second, that part of the reel. But in some cases, I had duplicates, copies of these songs, but not in the cases of these ones that had the damage. They were the only copy that I had. But of course, I do have the 1-inch tapes. The 1-inch tapes are the MS-16 tapes that are. Those tapes have not been processed or baked or anything yet. So there's still a chance to get those songs back using the MS-16, which is even higher quality of audio. So the damage that I experienced with those 3 reels, there may have been as many as 6 songs that were damaged. I'm not sure. But some of the songs were not. Some of the songs did have duplicates, copies, I think, within those 6. And in other words, there were 3 takes of one song, 3 different takes of one song, and they might have been the first 3 songs on the reel, or they might have been the second, third, and fourth. So one of them might have been damaged and 2 were not. There's a bit of, but in general, I think the first song was probably damaged on those 3 tapes. I noticed some, but I haven't even listened to the digital copies yet for all of them. I've listened. I know there was one that I really wanted to have that was damaged. That's all I know, because it was the only copy of that one that I had. Maybe I have a copy on cassette though, but I haven't found that yet. But that's possible. So there's another. But I also believe I have a 1-inch tape copy of it, and that hasn't been found yet. I mean, it's here. I have all the tapes. It's just I haven't been. I've written them all down. Wait a minute. I wrote down all the listings for all the tapes for the 1-inch. So maybe I do have that. Maybe I do know where it is, but I mean, I haven't found it in the physical tape layer. In the tape, it's on the tape itself. I haven't found it yet. but for the first step is to find it on the listing, and then see if because I'm sure that I'm almost certain that I have all my tapes that were originally here. They haven't been misplaced in any way or even moved around much. They were stored, and that was it. And that was stored once in one place, and they were brought out just recently. So I'm relatively confident, I should say. I'm not certain. I'm just confident that I have all my original tapes that I recorded. And I'm very happy because I'm happy about the fact that the 1 inch is high quality, but there's still we need to pray to Jehovah that we find out and figure out how to bake these tapes properly so that when we play them, and only play them once, because we have to. The challenge is going to be that we need to set up our the system I just showed you with the 8 channels of Behringer and 8 channels of PreSonus. We need to connect them together to make 16 channels, and that input needs to be connected to the iMac, and then that system becomes our transfer device. So we can transfer from the 16 track using the HOSA snake cable that I showed you. We need two HOSA snakes with 8 connectors each, and those can be plugged in to each of the Behringer and the PreSonus. The Behringer and the PreSonus can both take line ins, tip ring sleeve, so we're good to go there. One of the things about the Behringer is its line ins are on the front, so the connectors will be sticking up here on the front. I just realized that. So I might not want that the way it is, because that will interfere with my getting at the PreSonus. So this is wrong. I think yeah, it might be wrong. I might have to swap the Behringer, put it at the back, because just for the simple reason that it's going to have its inputs come into the front. The PreSonus has two that are in the front, but out of 8. But if I want to be able to access the knobs on the front of the PreSonus and all the other buttons and things, I have to have it closer to me so that I don't have to reach over top of the wires. Yeah, there's a lot of options for. I got a 6-foot and a 25-foot cable for the Behringer, so the Behringer could be put anywhere in the room. That's another thing, because this room is only 20 feet long, so it's basically true you could put the Behringer anywhere. So I mean, for now, I just want to put them close together and get it set up and work with it. That's the idea. So I'm very praise Jehovah. I'm happy. I mean, Jehovah's happy, I think, at how well things have gone here. I was able to order that, and it all arrived today. These things, all 3, the cables and the 2 devices, both they arrived. They were giving me notice today. So it either arrived today, but they weren't supposed to arrive that soon. One of them came from Japan. The Behringer came from Japan. That was from Japan, and the PreSonus came from Quebec. And the PreSonus, I had to reorder it because it was out of stock at the first place I ordered it, so I had to reorder it, and it feels like I reordered it last night or something. I reordered it at a ridiculous, at a time that was very ridiculously close to right now, because it was $50 or $60 more than the original order that I'd made that was out of stock, even though they didn't know it was out of stock when I ordered it. They said it was out of stock, so they couldn't provide it, so I just reordered quickly with Empress in Quebec. I got another order put in for the same device for $60 more, and now it's arrived in a matter of it was lightning fast. So that was by the blessing and power of Jehovah, no doubt. That was incredible, because it arrived exactly at the same time as the Behringer from Japan, and the Behringer from Japan wasn't necessarily going to get here until, I think, quite a bit later. I believe it was, like, I ordered everything. Everything was supposed to arrive in September, but this is the 14th of September. It's not, it could have arrived, I think, the 27th or something, or, this is the early, excellent service, excellent effort put in by the delivery people. They just are incredible, They're incredible. Everything is incredible. I love you guys, everybody, but yeah, it's a sign of, it's God's love, really, isn't it? But it's so powerful. And the cables came from Pitney Bowes, and that was somewhere, uh, maybe in the States or something, I think. But from Cable Direct is the name of the company. But I think Cable Direct is a German company, aren't they? Because it's spelled like the German spell, the way they spell cable, Kabel, and direct, Direkt. So I think it's German, but they're gold plated. These cables are good. They're really good cables. So that's it. It's what I believe is the best technology available in the world today, and for very little money. One of them was like $800 or something. It's less than 800 before tax anyway, but I forget what it is after tax, whether it's 800 or 700 or something. That's the PreSonus, and then the Behringer was I think it was under 500 even after tax. Seems to me unbelievable, but of course it doesn't have the capability to interface with the computer that the PreSonus has. So the PreSonus is worth paying a lot of money for it, or paying a little more than the Behringer. The PreSonus has this capability to produce 24 outputs too, which I don't think the Behringer has that. It's got the eight line outputs. So the Behringer is a more basic type of high quality basic mic preamp, and kind of a router, because it'll enable you to take outputs from it and send them somewhere. But the balanced outputs, you can send them quite a long distance. Certainly, 50 feet, 100 feet. I don't know how long balanced cables are used for, but quite a long. I think a few hundred feet for balanced cables. But I don't need that generally. I just need a few feet, or 20 feet at the most. So, because that's how big the room is, 20 feet, roughly. I think something like that. By 12-ish, by 7-ish. That's the size of this room. It's a mixing room, but it's like a control room. It's kind of designed after the old style low ceiling control rooms of the old studio days. I'm not sure what studios, whether it's MGM or something, or whether it's movie studios, or I think it's audio studios we're talking about. The old style studios had some of them had very low ceilings. They had low ceilings, and because I didn't have a lot of room, I built a false ceiling. So I have a ceiling below a ceiling. I put in joists, whatever you want to call them, rafters or joists, and I put them in above, and I built a complete second ceiling underneath the existing ceiling. That's why it's more like 7 feet instead of 8 feet tall. It'll give me the ability to do sound isolation if I put a door on it. And you see the ceiling? Yeah, there's more finishing work to do to get the decor finished. It's a lot of work of design that I put into it prior to this, but in the past few years I haven't done anything on it because I was busy with so many other things, and my late wife, I was busy with her for many of the years toward the end of her life. Of course, we were doing things together, but then she was, I think, without either of us realizing it, I think she was demanding more of our time, more of my time. And she didn't have the same level of interest in everything else that she had prior, understandably. So therefore, she didn't leave me a lot of free time to work on things in the studio and that sort of thing during those years. But it was mainly just the last few years. And maybe I got into other things at that time, and maybe part of it was the internet. I'm not sure with my website. I mean, I'm not sure why the studio work got slowed down and stopped really, but it did after about sometime in the 90s. I do have some tapes from 97, but very, very few. I think they're earlier than 97 generally. So, there's some probably like 93 is where it really ended, and then there's, for the most part ended. There's some from 96 and 7, I think, but and sometimes those are just added on to tapes that had extra tape that was blank at the end. I just added another song on in 97 to a tape that was from 93, for example. That's one thing I saw. So I haven't done any work in the 2000s in the studio, really. So other than this work I'm doing with remixing and digitizing, and that's exciting. It's really good work. I mean, really worthwhile, good work, I think, to do important work is what I'm trying to say. It's important work, but it's also very creative work, and mixing and mastering. Mastering is the hardest part of the whole audio process, and that's really it's also very exciting when you get a master that is when you get a song master that really sounds. There's the MS-16 we're looking at right here in the picture. It's a good view of it. You can see it's quite a meaty machine. It weighs like the base unit itself without the meters. That bottom unit weighs 83 pounds. It's according to the manual. It's not a light piece of hardware. It's about, I don't know. The depth of it is as deep as you see there. The box of wood there, that's beautiful. That's tiger maple, I think, that's on the front of that. Is it? It's maple. I think it's tiger maple on the front of it. But I built this whole thing myself out of cherry. That I had cherry. Now I have my own cherry from a cherry tree in my yard, but this is cherry that I bought. And it was so this unit was built from cherry. And let me show you something interesting before we go.